Mikä tässä on 3 vuotta?
I guess we'll start. Hi everyone, my name is Denzel, and I'll be your teacher for the course Mobile Computing. The course code is 521147S, so if you want to get a copy of the slides and everything, it's on Moodle, so you can just search there and enroll in the class, so you have access to everything. I go by first name basis, so just call me Denzel. And that's my email, and that's my office number. It's right here in this building on the 3rd floor, okay? So if you want to talk about your project or anything about the class, questions, please feel free to shoot me an email or just visit me. I'm not teaching this class alone. So we have Kennedy and Valerie, they're right here in the front. And Aku, he's probably not going to be here every day because he's actually working at Oulu. But if I can make the class, he will take over, okay? And the reason for that is because I have some family matters back home that might require me to travel. And so he's just on hold so that you know his face, okay? So our class, or this class, is a bit different from what you're probably used to, in the sense that we will do a lot of hands-on, and also you just don't stay in the theory, but we're actually going to do and get our hands dirty with Android. And so the other thing is that we will learn together, and so that's a bit different from what you're probably used to, where someone like a teacher is just dumping stuff on you, and then that's it. We have a bit of back and forth, and so these are our faces. So like I said, just go to Moodle, join the class so that we know that you're enrolled, and then you can search for mobile computing. All of that code right there. There's also a mobile app. So if you have iPhone or Android, if you go to the Play Store, there's the Moodle app, and then in there you can add the university moodle.oulu.fi, and you will find all your courses that you have registered in there. The reason I encourage you to do that is that it actually integrates with your calendar, so you can see the assignments, you can see the deadlines, you can chat with us, and you can actually access the material. The other thing that we are doing this year is that we're also recording the class. So this is actually being recorded. I don't know if you can see there on the top, because we also have students from La Taranta and other universities attending remotely. So we actually we are recording every lecture and every lab, what you see on the screen, as well as my voice, and also the camera, so you can actually see all of it. So in case you miss a class, that's okay, because you can always see the class later. We have done this course for 5 years now. So in a way, this is a process that we have kind of refined over the years. And we always listen to what the students complain, and there's always room for improvement. So in a way, when we first started the class, we had a lot of theory, not so much coding, and then people started asking like, okay, well, it would be nice to be able to do some of these things in real life, and then we changed it a little bit, and nowadays it's what you're going to have here. So let's talk about the course itself. So it's 5 credits. You know what this means. Okay. For those who are not familiar with this kind of structure, this literally means 135 hours of work. Okay? And I'm not gonna work you to death, let's put it this way. So we have about 28 hours of classes in the first period, and about 10 hours that you should spend more or less to do the homework. The good thing about the way we structured this is that you will probably do most of the homework actually in the lab, okay? And so the course will cover a wide variety of things that are part of mobile computing. One of them is Kotlin, which is kind of like the de facto language nowadays for Android programming. And we'll talk about interaction with the user, using the sensors, how do you do multitasking, context-aware services, so how do you build those, and then multi-modal interaction, so using voice input, touch, haptic, vision input. And then the lab section, you're literally going to build an app from scratch, every single step of it, okay? So we're going to use GitHub for pushing changes, making sure you don't lose your work, things like this, so that when you come to the project, you can collaborate with others, okay? So you should be familiar with GitHub by the time you get to the second period, okay? There are no lectures on the second period. And by independent, it means that you guys will work together as a team or individually. It's up to you to decide how you want to do it. But the idea is that you would build an app with your team or alone. And we have a few guidelines in here so that you don't do your project a week before the deadline, okay? So we just have these here so that you should have at least hand-drawn or sketched how the application is going to look like and how you go from one screen to another. What happens when you press one button, you go to something else. These are the UIs that have been designed using Android Studio. So you will learn all of these things in the labs, okay? By here, you should be done with your app, okay? And then we ask you to make a 1 to 2 minutes long kind of promotion video of your app so that you kind of showcase what your app does and how does it work and things like that. Yeah, so that's kind of like an overview of the whole course. So I already mentioned this. Can you skip classes? Yes, it's okay. You can skip classes if you want to. Should you? I don't encourage, but if you must, it's okay. We record every lecture and labs. The only difference is that you won't be able to ask a question whenever you have a question, so it will be a bit difficult. But yeah, you can skip it. We don't penalize for that, okay? But try to make an effort to wake up on Mondays. I will at least have to, so try to wake up early Mondays and Tuesdays. All the lectures are in the morning, so at least that. So we divided the grading half and half, okay? So half of your grade will come from the first period, which is now, and the second period will be the actual project, okay? These are kind of like the deadlines for the homeworks. So 21st of January, 28th, 4th of February, 17, and 6th. So the first one is very easy. So you just open Android Studio, start a new project, share it to GitHub, done. Okay, it will take you like maybe a minute. Okay, you'll probably do that on the labs anyway tomorrow. So just bring your laptop tomorrow to be able to do this, and that's it. Check mark, done. Okay. The idea is more for you to get familiar with Android Studio, where you find these icons and where you share your project and things like this. How do you create a new project? Is Android Studio working on your laptop? Do you have any issues installing it and things like this? So tomorrow's class is kind of a bit important for you to really bring your laptop so that you're up to speed and you can start trying things out as we teach, okay? So let's go a little bit more into detail about this period right now, which is period 3. If you don't have a GitHub account, please create one, because that's what you're going to use. And then basically all the progress that you've done in the app that we are going to build will be saved in GitHub, as well as you will learn to use GitHub, like the UI, to kind of go through your code, to comment it. So especially when you're in the second part of the class, or you're working with someone else, you can actually share with each other, like, okay, well, maybe we should implement this way directly in GitHub, so you don't have to, learn from scratch. And then we will also give you feedback on how you implement things, so you can also learn with that. And we can even give you hints, like if you're stuck somewhere, we can actually tell you like, oh, there's actually this solution here, maybe you can try it out and it will work. Yeah, so the labs is more like kind of a guided learning experience where we will be with you, we will solve the assignment, and so as long as you come to the labs, you literally do the first period of the class. Okay, so just come, try it out. Don't be afraid of having your app crash and stuff like that, because that's how you learn. So what we will do is we're going to create an assistant reminder. So basically the app will authenticate you. You will have a list of reminders, and then you can schedule the reminder to a given time. And then we're going to make it a little bit more complicated, where we're going to make it trigger based on the location. So if you want to be reminded of something when you get somewhere, you can do that. And the reminder will come as a notification or even making the phone talk to you. So we're going to use text to speech. So your phone will talk to you to say, oh, remind yourself about this. Okay? Relatively simple. A bit of complexity in there so that you get a grasp of the sensors, how you get this data, how do you save this data, how do you react to things that are happening, like the time and the location of the user. And yeah, so you can, for example, here the input can be text or voice input, so you can actually just talk. So we will teach you how to do that. I put here a question mark here, the biometric, because not all the phones have this, and so you probably won't be able to actually develop this on your phone, probably, or test it. So I have this as a question mark so that it's not like mandatory. Okay, if your phone has it, you can try it and see if it works, and if you don't, then it's okay. Okay, because the logic is still the same. Identify the user. That's it. So you just check with a smartphone whether or not this is the person you say you are. Are there any questions about this app? Okay, good. If you later have questions, like I said, you can email me or the TAs. Even on Moodle, there's also a question and answers section in there. And so period 4, so this is going to be a bit, the reason why we say it's an independent project is because I don't want to have to tell you what you're going to do, okay? I want you to take advantage of the time to actually do something you want to do, okay? This has worked well in the past because most people who come here, they want to learn how to program, to make an app, hopefully get rich. I mean, that's how Royu started. And so it's your project, your idea, and your time, basically. We have those deadlines in there so that we make sure that at least you're making some progress when we are not having face-to-face interaction here. And so how does this look in terms of time? So the first period, it's actually, let me show you. So this is here. So we are on week 1. So that's the 13th and 14th of January. So our first period is all the way until 24th and 25th of February. So we have now January and 1 month of classes, basically. And then the project, you start in March and it ends in May. Okay? And what you can see here is that we made it so that you will be done with everything before Waffle. So that means you can go celebrate after this is done, okay? Last year we had a deadline after Waffle. That was a terrible idea. A lot of people would head numbers. So no. So we're gonna do everything before Waffle, okay? And we do everything here. This is spring break. You're actually gonna have a week off before you actually start, okay? So we are mindful of your free time and stuff, and the idea here is mostly so that you can fit in basically the class with other classes so that you don't get too overloaded with stuff to do, because if you come to the labs, you're going to do these, and then there's no more lectures or labs, so you basically free up that time so that you can spend that time here. This is approximately 2.5 hours every day. So if you have 4 hours from here, and plus the 10 hours or something, that's about the same thing in here. So if you spend at least 1 hour in your project on the second period, you'll be okay. Okay, and you're not working alone. Hopefully, you can if you want to. I had some people before the class started asking, "Can I do the project alone?" Yes, you can. Okay, so it's up to you. Some people prefer to work alone. Some people prefer to work with others. So you can do that. Okay, so yeah. So the other thing is that great ideas sometimes lead to a job in the future, as well as maybe a startup. So we have had projects here that led to startups or even a job later. Okay, and the reason is that you will obtain development skills. You will learn how things work. And it will be a good basis for you to learn more. Of course, we cannot teach you everything. Okay, there's much more than what I will be able to provide in here, given our 7 weeks long course. But it will at least give you a hands-on on how things work, and potentially you'll be able to apply for jobs where they require someone who has mobile development experience. And then this is the most important part for us, is that we are here to help you, okay? And the more you ask, the more we can give, okay? And so that's kind of like the relationship that I want to kind of motivate in here. I don't see it as a just one-way street, but it's actually both ways, okay? So what have we done in the past? Here are 4 playlists with pretty much all the projects we've done over the years. And this is why we ask you to make this 1 to 2 minutes long video, okay? Because it's helpful for you who are just starting for the next year. They will see what you guys did, and they will start thinking like, oh, that was a good idea, and stuff like this, and you start getting ideas. So if you don't have an idea of what will be your project for the second period, take a look at the previous projects, see what they did. Maybe some idea will come out of that. But yeah, so let me show you a few of those. Okay, so let me see if I can find here the best project. So here's one. So that was one. Let's see. So depending on the year, you will have different kind of themes. Some of them are they're very various things. Let me see here. So this one here is about sports, like building a community with sports. So the idea with this app was to kind of create paths that then you would share with your friends and try to beat each other's time. So that was the kind of the idea of the game. So some people actually think about games, so you can think about that too. Social media, so some people actually created like completely new social media platforms. Yeah, even drinking applications. But yeah, so the idea is here, just take a look at the playlist, and maybe you will get some idea, okay? And start thinking about it. Start thinking, how would you implement this? How would you, what kind of sensors will you need? What kind of interfaces are you gonna need? And start sketching, start thinking about this. The sooner you start, the better it is gonna be for you for the second period where you actually do the programming, okay? And the other thing about that I didn't mention was that all of these kind of deadlines, you can do them ahead of time. They're all already in Moodle. So if you're experienced and if you want to get this class done like faster, you can. Nothing stops you from doing that. Okay, we had someone who said, "Oh, I've been working for 10 years doing this kind of stuff. Can I just pass the class?" I'm like, "Well, at least you need to do what we ask, and if you do that, then I have no problems with that." So you can get ahead of, you can start and you can start programming. If you want to, for example, the standalone application we're going to do together, if you already know a lot of this stuff, you can just do it. And you don't need to wait for us to tell you how to do it, okay? And you can always ask us feedback before you submit. So you can say, "Oh, I've shared it here. What do you think about this? Can I make it better?" And that's it, okay? Any questions? Yeah.
What are the requirements for the project? Like, are there features you have to use, or can you just do anything you like as long as it's good?
That's a good way. Yeah. Anything you like as long as it's good. If by good, it means that you took into account the UI, the interaction with UI, the functionalities that you have available for you, like database storage, things like that. So what makes you install an app and keep an app? It's because it's useful for you. It's because it gives you pleasure, whatever it is, okay? And so that's kind of like the mindset that you should think about for the project. Please don't do just a to-do list. We have students do that. They just, there's a to-do list and that's it. Try to spice it up, like make it, interesting. Something that you could share with someone and say, "Here, this is what I built." And they would find it, "Oh, this is cool," okay? So this is kind of like a safe environment for you to try things and to learn with us. I've been coding Android since Android 1, so more than since 2007 or so. So that's when Android was released. I've been coding since then. I was lucky that I actually had access to the Android G1, so that's the first one. So I have quite a few years of experience under my belt. So if you have questions of Android itself, and also Kennedy and Valerie here, they also experienced developers here. They've been with us for a long time, and they've been coding also for a long time. So if you have questions, just shoot us an email. Our emails are our first name dot last name at oulu.fi. Okay, and you can also find them on the Moodle page. Okay. Any more questions? So yeah.
Can we use other tools than just Android Studio and something like Flutter? That's the thing to be.
Sure. You can if you have a team, or if you want to do it alone, you can. That's fine. Yeah. But ideally, you would use Kotlin, but I mean, it's okay if you prefer to use Flutter. How many of you have heard the word Flutter before? Okay, a few of you. Okay. So if you prefer to use Flutter, go ahead. You can use it. It's okay. The benefit of using Flutter is that you run the app in iOS and Android if you have a Mac, so you can test it in both platforms. But if you don't, then you can just, you know. The other question that sometimes I get is how big can the team be? It depends on how much headache you want to have. Because the bigger the team, the more complicated it becomes to orchestrate everything. So ideally, we prefer teams between 2, 3, 4 at most. So you can think about a team like that. So a team of 2 is a pair. So you know, pair programming also works. So anything between 2 and 4 will be okay for a team. Okay. But if you want to do it on your own, you can also do it on your own. This is better, for example, for those students who are not here. So we actually have students online, so they prefer to do the project on their own, and that's it. That's okay. Any more questions? So another question I get is, what if I miss the deadline? And I'll just say it's okay to miss it for a couple of days, but after that, we kind of start nagging you and bugging you to actually submit it, because you know the deadline is there for a reason. It's so that you can be at the same stage as everyone else. So if you delay too much, then you'll fall behind, and then we cannot help you anymore. Okay, so try to follow the deadline. Try to do it by the time we stipulated. The lab sessions are for that, so that you can actually get started and continue at home. So the idea is that you won't feel like you're alone trying to do an assignment without any support. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
The apps we will build, they will be our property, right?
Yes.
We can upload them to.
Nico?
Huh?
Are you Nico?
No.
No. Okay. I had the same question asked. Okay. It's yours.
So we can use it anywhere, and we can upload to the Play Store. And
Yes.
And so on.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I had those dollar signs. I actually had one team the previous year that actually put an app on the Play Store, and they actually made money out of it. So it really is yours. Okay. Okay. So, let's see, quarter. So why mobile computing? Why is it a hot topic? Why is it important? It's actually an increasing trend in information consumption. So if we think about how people read the news nowadays, most people prefer to read them on their phone. And so the other thing is that devices and services are increasingly mobile. So if you think about, like, for example, the Oculus Rift, the VR headset, it's becoming detached from your laptop or your computer so that it's everything self-contained. And then you have, for example, some news outlets, they don't have a paper format. They just have a digital format that you could either consume on your computer or on a mobile phone. Why is it better? Simply because it's cheaper to produce. It's easier to change something after the fact in a digital format than it is after you print it. Okay. And then the other thing is that by being mobile, it means that it's easier to connect things. So if you think about things like ad revenue, sharing information between newspapers. It's easy for them to do that on a digital format than it is to do on a paper format. And then the other thing is that if you have an app or if you have a mobile app or a website that can push notifications to you, they can remain your attention. So they get always a direct line of contact with the reader, okay? And that keeps them engaged and also builds like customer relationships between whoever is providing information and you as a consumer. So the other thing is that it offers flexibility and availability. You can read it anywhere you are, okay? And then also actually people use internet nowadays more on their phone than they actually do on their laptops. And then there's this thing called the mobile first movement. So if you think about a service or a company, they always try to do first for the mobile phone, an app or a website, and then everything else. Why? Because there's a lot more smartphones and mobile phones out there than there are computers nowadays. It's crazy. Yeah. The other thing is, I mentioned briefly social media. That's a good way to advertise. It's easy. People do it on their own. And, it's the best way to reach millions of people with just one tweet. For example, you can see like Donald Trump and Beyonce, whatever. So these guys, they tweet something, they have 40 million followers, whatever. All of those people are going to get a notification saying, oh, I just said this. So the potential to reach someone is, and the boundaries that you used to have been significantly diminished. The other thing is that, this also means that we have a challenge, which is we have an overflow of information. So we have a limited amount of hours in the day. And if we're looking at, Facebook or Twitter for some time, you will notice that there's a lot of things in there. There's no way you're going to consume all of that. And so the thing is, basically you need to filter. You need to decide what is important to you, what is relevant for you, and then decide where you're going to spend your time. Okay, so that leads to mobile computing. Is this mobile computing? No, it's not. So mobile computing, it's more about how we can use technology and how technology is ingrained in people's lives. Okay, by nature we are mobile. We keep moving, we travel, we do other things, and we're not supposed to be just sitting in front of the computer. And in a way, that's the power of mobile computing, is that you can actually take that computation with you anywhere you go. And then the other thing is that we are social in general. And so we actually enjoy the company of others who are either like-minded or not. Maybe you like a good discussion, and so you prefer to deal with other people different from you. And so this course is more about leveraging mobile technology and also the social aspects that go around mobile computing. So IoT, smartphones, and gadgets try to create something that can actually improve someone's life. And that's why a lot of the projects you saw from the playlist, they're about connection, they're about mobile, they're about quality of life. Okay, so that's what you're going to see as a trend in most of those projects. Actually, there was one project that was to be antisocial. So the app would reject calls, it would delete messages and stuff like that. That was a really interesting take on, detach yourself from everything. But anyway, yeah. But the overall idea is literally use technology for good and not so much as, a zombie apocalypse. People are just attached to their phones and that's it. They just, Okay, so challenges. Challenges of mobile interfaces. So mobility implies freedom So that means when you think about your application, you need to think about, can this be used in what context? What are the constraints of the actual use of what I'm going to create? And then we have the difference between interaction and interface. So how you experience the application versus what you build. So in some of the projects, you will have things like interaction between Android Auto and your phone. So how does your phone communicate with Android Auto? So your car. Or how do you interact between your phone and your TV, for example? So if you think about this, if you use Netflix or Chromecast, you start thinking about, okay, there has been a lot of thought went into how do you make sure that you don't get swallowed by your phone and lose track of what you were trying to accomplish in the first hand, which was watch TV or drive, okay? And so in this class, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you design interfaces that can support this kind of mental model. So graphical user interfaces, so normally the output that you get, what you see is visual, and input is normally touch. And this is kind of like the status quo that we have nowadays for smartphones. So you see it on your screen, you interact with it with your touch, or your nose if it's really cold. But anyway, it's normally touch. But there are other things that you can do. You can use voice, you can use gestures, and for output, it can also be speech. Your phone can actually talk. Audio, you can have sounds, vibration, so haptics. So you can feel, okay, there's something happening on my phone, it vibrates, so get your attention. Or you can confirm an action, like a mistake, by making the phone vibrate, and a noise like, or something like that. Okay, it doesn't necessarily need to be visual, okay? And this is kind of like the things that we will talk about here, so that you don't just restrict yourself to the visual and touch only. So when you build your app, you're gonna have to think about, okay, what else can I do? How can I get the user's attention? How do I make it a bit better? The reason for that is that not everyone can see, and not everyone, is able to interact with their device like this. So how do you make information truly mobile? So there are basically three options. So one of them is you resize the content. So normally, if you have, let's say, a web page, and you want to convert that to a mobile format, you can resize it, but then you end up having like a very small window to a lot of content, and then you have a lot of scrolling. A better way to do that would be to reformat it. So you can divide it into sections, and then you adapt basically the information to the mobile device without necessarily having to redesign how you interact with that information. You still scroll, right? But you can actually divide it into sections that, for the user, it's easy to find what they want. So if you use the mobile app, the Moodle app, I've done that for you already. So in the class, if you go to your desktop, you're going to have a lot of things to scroll. But if you do that on your phone, it actually has different sections. You can go to the lectures, you can go to the assignments, you can automatically jumps to where you need to go, okay? Reformulating. So this is kind of the challenge here. So how do you change it? So this is more about how the user interacts with the application. And this is kind of a lot of times where you will spend the most time when you create a mobile application. So smartphone, a powerful computer in your pocket. So let's talk about the evolution of mobile phone. Has anyone had one of these? No. I'm too old. I had one of those. And I had some Xperia X3, whatever, a long time ago. So what has changed? Let's think about this.
Screen size.
Okay, screen size. What else?
Type of interaction,
Sorry?
like the way we interact.
Yes. So we used to have keyboards and now we don't. What else? Performance and battery. Okay. Anything else?
Internet connection.
Yes. Good one.
Colorful design.
Sorry.
Colorful retina.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Keyboard. Keyboard changed. We talked about this. So we went from a T9 keyboard, which was this layout of, to a QWERTY keyboard. That's what you're more used to. The antenna is gone.
The external antenna.
Yes, sure, yes, yes. You went from a monochromatic display to a full color display. We went from keys interaction kind of oriented interaction to a touch oriented interaction. In the old days, small was better, and now bigger is better. You notice that? We used to have weeks of battery, and now we just have days. So battery decreased, actually. We used to do only SMS later, because there was no SMS here, but there was there, and phone calls. And now we do way more with your phone. Smartphones actually used to be more work-oriented. So people could only afford a smartphone if you were like a businessman or something like that. And now it's more mainstream, so anyone can buy one. We used to have very little sensors or no sensors at all. And now we have a lot of things in your phone. So accelerometer, gyro, magnetometer, GPS, all sorts of sensors in your device. Internet, you mentioned. So no internet. Now we do have internet pretty much everywhere. And we had limited functionality. Like you got what you paid for, and that's it. You couldn't install any apps in there. And now you can. Now you can add new applications in there. So who had one of these? Okay, good. It's no longer here anymore. So Windows Phone was Microsoft's take on smartphones, disappeared. Nokia's. I'm pretty sure most of you had a Nokia. So we had Symbian, Memo, Migo, and others that Nokia tried their best to kind of create a mobile smartphone ecosystem, but unfortunately they didn't make it. They now actually revived with the HMD Global, so they have now an Android device called Nokia brand, but BlackBerry OS died, they replaced it with Android. So now you have BlackBerry devices with Android on it, not BlackBerry OS. Android doesn't need any introduction. So when I first started using Android, this was the UI. That's it. That's how it looked like. And that's all the functionalities we had. The browser, contacts, files, GPS, and some programming, debugging in there. There was also phone number in there that's not showing. But yeah, Android has evolved a lot, but it still remains pretty much the same. We will talk a little bit about this. iPhone, iOS, so there's kind of like a history of them. Bigger. Just kidding. Yeah, and then now we have, read it this way. So I was supposed to be on this side and then go this way. So iPhone 8 Plus and 10. So what is happening here? You notice something? So if you think about this. Yes, exactly. So the button disappeared. So we used to have here a button, and the same thing happened on Android devices. So I have a Pixel 4. There's no buttons in the front, nothing. So everything's gesture-based. So the other thing is the camera. The camera is what sells the phone, basically. The more fancy the camera, the more AI it can do, the more willing people are to buy it. The other thing is the screen. So the more screen you have, the better, basically. So if you remove all the buttons from the front and the cameras, and you just have screen, the better. And then as little buttons as possible in port. So there's actually been kind of a change that we have seen. So the volume, fingerprint reader, so it used to be in the front, like the iPhone used to have the fingerprint in the front, that moved to the back. And then nowadays you even have a screen-based fingerprinter, and now even on Pixel 4, for example, it doesn't have a fingerprint at all, it just reads your face. And the iPhone has also moved that direction. And the power, the camera button, and then the charging connector is also disappearing. So you're charging your phone by wireless. You don't need that cord anymore. Then the price is going up again. So what used to be cheap, it's now getting more expensive. So now you cannot buy an iPhone, for example, for less than $1,000, for example. Of course, if you buy it secondhand and something, but if you want the latest version, you'll pay at least $1,000. Okay? And so that means that we're going back to the time where owning a smartphone was expensive. I don't know if that's going to be a trend in the future. Maybe the smartphones are not going to be here anymore. We're going to be buying something else. Okay? So if you think about the interface, and there's an overview here. So BlackBerry, Android, Apple phone, and Apple again. That's a tablet over there. The interface looks very similar. They always have icons. They always have color. But they don't work the same. And what do I mean by that? So the way you interact with the interface is different. So let me show you. So if we think about the interface as 3 layers, okay? So we have what holds your screen. So that's the real estate you have. So depending on the phone or the device, the amount of space you will have is different. And also the pixel density and everything, okay? How you interact with that screen is going to depend on the OS you have. So that's the syntactic layer. So the sequence that you need to do to perform an action is going to be different depending on the OS. I will give you a very concrete example. And then how you design the interface is different. So in the iOS, they have like this own language. And Android, they have material design, more flat. And so the combination of all of these 3 will affect how you actually interact with the smartphone you have. Okay? They should be independent in principle, but they're not. Okay? So let me just show you how that works. Simple app. How do you share a photo? Depending on the OS, the sequence that you do this is different. So for example, click the photo, press the share button, and then share with who you want. Or you press the share button, you select the pictures you want, and then you choose who you want. Or you start by choosing someone, select the photos, and then press the share button. So there are many variants to this. And the way you do that depends on the OS, okay? And there are guidelines for that. And so this depends on the OS. And then us, as developers or designers of the application, we need to think about how does this work for this specific OS, okay? To keep it simple, in our class, we're going to use Android. So the interaction that we will think about will be how we do it in Android, okay? For those who want to do it in Flutter, I would say do it in Flutter, but maybe just focus on Android so that the interaction is the same, okay? Don't create interactions on Android that are not native to Android. That is like the number one way to make someone from iPhone just hate Android, and vice versa. So if you give an iPhone to someone who has used Android his whole life, he won't know what to do, because the sequence that you need to do things is different. And there's what we call material design, which is a philosophy or a way of thinking about how you design your application that we will talk about in this class. Okay. Okay. So if we think about experiencing the application, there's a lot of thought process that goes into it, okay? So if you use Linux or Windows command line for doing commands, there's basically what you put in there, what you write in there, you already know what's going to be the output. But when you create a UI, the number of choices, the number of mistakes the user can do is exponentially higher, okay? Because the command line, the way it's structured is that it only accepts correct input. So if you try to do some command in the command line and you put the wrong argument or something like that, it will just give you an error and that's it. When you use an interaction, you might actually get yourself into use cases that you didn't think about, like pressing delete when you didn't select anything, for example. Most interfaces are experience oriented, so that's why it's called graphical. It's about the visual side. So combining both, like multiple, you need to think about the syntactic layer, so the sequence of interaction, and what is displayed to the user. And so this means that when you think about your app or your application, you need to think about the use cases in which the app is going to be used. Okay. So those who are from software engineering and computer science have probably seen this kind of use case, where you have different users, different tasks they can do, and this is a system. So this square thing is a system. The problem with these is that they don't have enough detail when you think about the interaction with the mobile app. Okay, so you know, okay, replenish cache. So the bank has to do that, and the cashier has to do that. But how they do it is different, right? There's no detail on how they do that. And so a better way to do it is that if you have a flow diagram where you have multiple use cases, you have different conditions, yes, no, and you have different states. So that's one way to do it. But since we're going to be dealing with mobile application development, for me, I prefer something like this, where you have an interface and you say, okay, if I press here, this is the UI that I will get. If I press there, this is the UI that I will get. So when you're thinking about your app and you're doing the hand sketches, this is what we're looking for. So you can think about, okay, what are the items that I will have in there? How is it going to look like, more or less? It's a sketch, so it doesn't need to be pixel perfect or anything like that. But at least it will get you thinking about the interaction the user will have to do and what he's going to see. And in a way, this will speed up your time and effort for you later when you're doing the code and making the UI more fancy. And what happens when you press here, and you can divide the tasks. So you can have someone implement one UI while the other one is implementing another UI, and then you put them together. Okay? So this is a good way to kind of thinking about the problem and the use cases and the different variations of interaction. So what happens if the user presses send? What happens if the user presses here? What happens when the user presses here? Things like this. Do you save? When the person comes back, do you restore where he was? Or do you cancel it? When you press here, do you say, oh, do you want to discard this or do you want to delete it? These are things that for us, we are so used to when we use a refined application, let's say like Gmail. When you start writing an email and then you leave and your email is in the midway, have you noticed that it actually kind of prompts you like, oh, do you want to keep this or do you just want to delete it, discard this? So this is kind of the things that this kind of flows and screens will allow you to plan better your application and how it works. So this is another side of the mobile part. It's personal. It's a device that has a lot of data about yourself, okay? So that means that when you create an application, you can almost be sure that it will be used by just one person, the owner of the smartphone. It's always on as long as you have battery, right? It has built-in payment mechanisms, so NFC and other things. And you can add new features just by creating applications. And then the application can benefit from the sensors that you have on your phone. And literally you can have context into what's going on and provide a value to the user based on where you are at the time of the day, for example. So for example, you don't want, for example, your app to try to nag the user when he's driving, for example. You might want to have a use case for that. If you detect that the user is driving, don't do anything. So Android Auto has started doing that. I don't know how many of you have Android Auto in their car, but if I get, for example, a phone call that actually rings on the Bluetooth of the car, if I get a text, I just see like this notification saying this person tried to text you, but it doesn't say what it was. So it doesn't distract me from what I'm doing. I'm actually driving. Okay? And so that's kind of the mindset we need to think into here. So the other thing is that designing mobile applications, services, devices have grown in complexity over the years. So these are like the first kind of fitness trackers. And what you can see here is that they're increasingly becoming more complicated. They started having screens and other things. So literally they're trying to put a smartphone in your wrist. But that also means that they are doing something more than what they used to do, which was just step counting and calories. They now tell you the time. They tell you like how many floors did you walk, how many push-ups did you do, and things like this. So that means that designing for these devices is also becoming more complex. So I did kind of hint this in the beginning. Are we going to use smartphones in the future? Probably not. Maybe we'll use something else. So there's actually a report from Ericsson where they say that smartphones will disappear within 5 to 10 years. It's kind of hard to think about that. But if you think about it, smartphones as like a smartphone as it is, started in 2007. That was, you know, first Android, first iPhone. 10 years later, what that device can do is very different from what it could do in the beginning. 10 years from now, I'm pretty sure the phone is going to look very different from what it does today. Especially because there seems to be a push to kind of make the devices more ubiquitous, so more integrated into all the devices you use. So how many of you use Google Assistant? Nobody?
Sometimes I ask a question when I can find something in Google Home.
Okay.
That's the only case.
Okay. So there are the devices like, for example, Google Home Hub, Android TV, Android Auto. So even smartwatches, they have Google Assistant integrated into them so that you can ask questions and ask Google to do things for you, like remind you of something and things like this. Where's my wife? Call my wife, things like this. I hope I don't say that too loud, otherwise my phone's gonna start calling somewhere. But yeah, so the other thing is that what you've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, is that you are actually nowadays going to be pushed to talk with AI more than to talk with a person. When you call customer service, it will make you wonder, are you talking with someone or are you just talking to a machine? There's this thing like press 1 for this, press 2 for that. But then you kind of expect that you're going to be talking with someone, but you know, Google themselves, they have given in Google I/O a demo where they actually have put Google Assistant as a customer relationship, and the person was talking with it and didn't even notice that it was talking with the robot. And so I think as AI matures, you're going to start experiencing this where you won't even know the difference anymore. So if you are not familiar with what Google can do.
When we started, we made this for everyone, so that everyone could find anything they need among the millions of bazillions of things in the world. Today, it seems like sometimes it's easy to feel like you need a little help with the stuff just in your own world. Your photos, phone, videos, calendars, messages, friends, trips, reservations, and so on and so on. Wouldn't it be nice if you had some help with all that? Wouldn't it be nice if you had a Google for your world? That's why we're building the Google Assistant. Hi, Abe. How can I help? You just ask it what you need. Okay, Google, what do I have to do today? And your assistant understands and helps you out. You can even carry on a conversation with it. How long will it take to get to downtown Chicago from home? Here you go. What restaurants are there? Book a table at Cortino Restaurant. Sure. And the assistant is always there for you. So if you're on the road, you can ask it where to fill up. And if you're at home, you can ask it to play some music. Or if you're in a chat with a friend, it can show you what's playing tonight. It's like your own personal Google. Naturally, anything you share with it is safe and secure. And the more you use your Google Assistant, the more useful it becomes. Remember my bike combo is 326. Got it. And soon, you'll be able to access it from all sorts of places. So it will be everywhere you are. We made this for everyone. And today, we're making this just for you. Hi, how can I help? Meet your Google Assistant.
So if you also have a Chromebook, it's also integrated with Chrome OS nowadays. So you can also do the same. And if you just use Google Chrome, you can also use it. So this is kind of like the trend in here. And I will give you some more examples. So this is not Google Assistant. This is a system that is being used by Bosch. Try to bring assistance to your car.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Should I start your preferred music at this time of day?
No, better not today.
Do you want to drive to work as usual at this time?
Yes, please.
There is a traffic jam on the freeway right now. The fastest alternative route will get you there with around 10 minutes delay.
Okay.
Disregard the poor acting. These guys are not Oscar winners, but
Don, I know this is the first time we've worked together this closely, but you can count on me, right? If you assign me this new customer project, it will run like clockwork. I'm certain of that. Never mind. Gonna move on. Mary, drive me to. What is the choice? I'm programming my navigation system. I call it Mary.
No. It's the name of my ex-wife, who just divorced me. In order for the question of.
Mary, from now on, please answer to the name Jane.
okay. So, oh, why is this going so fast? Wait, go back. All right. So we were here. So one thing that you saw just a glimpse of it is that, you know, just voice input might sound like a good idea, but then you have situations where voice input might not be a good idea. You might be in a noisy environment. You might, you know, not speak perfect English like myself. I'm Portuguese. I have an accent. So Google sometimes doesn't get what I say and things like this. And then you also have this social awareness. So you're not alone. So if you shout out all the things you want Google to do, then, you know, everyone's going to know what the hell you're doing. So that's why, for example, Android Auto allows you to interact with the system with using your touchscreen, for example, or even the knobs of your wheels. And on your phone, you can actually type what you want. You don't necessarily need to use the voice. Because, you know, also some people, they can't speak. So they're mute. So that also includes them into using Google Assistant or these devices. So there's also this concept from Sony, which is an assistant in your ear. So it might be that in the future you don't need a phone at all. You just have a small device in your ear. You can ask it to call someone. You can ask it for directions, and it will just tell you where to go. The benefit of this is that then you have your hands free.
Your next event is meeting from 10 a.m.
So you got the idea. So this might appear a bit far-fetched, but Google just announced last year the Google Buds that does this and more. It actually translates live someone speaking in a different language to you to a language that you understand. Doesn't work in Finnish, unfortunately. But yeah, it does do this live translation. It can give you feedback. You can ask it to play music and all these things. So these are not that far-fetched anymore. There's also smart glasses nowadays. I mean, you've seen Google Glass failed product, but there are other products out there that might be coming where it might actually sense to be having it as an assistant in your eye. This is one of them. There are many others.
View Display smart glasses are a hands-free extension of your smartphone that displays your digital life right in front of your eyes. Never miss the action with a built-in high-definition camera for capturing videos and beautiful pictures. Simple swipe and tap interactions let you control your view. Powerful Cobra display engines. USB and Bluetooth audio with built-in microphones. Open platform for third-party app integration. Be connected, stay informed, and never miss a shot. Your digital life is important, but you find yourself staring at your smartphone all the time. With View Display, being connected can be much more than that. It's about staying engaged with the conversation you're having and leaving your phone in your pocket. With View Display smart glasses, you stay connected to your life while staying connected to your real life. Receive all the notifications you've left.
It's like
Messages, breaking news, and smart home alerts while your phone stays in your pocket. View Display is instantly there to keep you informed.
I'm not so convinced, but there's some kind of use cases where having a smart glass might be useful, right? So maybe in the future, a smartphone will look something like this, where you have something like Star Trek. Beam me up. Call this person, whatever, okay? Is it that far-fetched? Not really. It's already in use. Some hospitals use that to communicate between doctors, between their secretaries, between the nurses. They press here, and they can ask, connect me to this person. I want to talk to them. I want to get a second opinion. And they can listen and talk right from this device. No phones. So maybe in the future, that's what we're going to be using. Or here. We don't know.
Is that his phone in the pocket?
Sorry? Yeah, probably. I don't know. Looks like some gadget. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So who has seen Minority Report? Okay, a few of you have. So one thing about Minority Report is it shows a glimpse of what could be potential future. So I'll show you a small snapshot from this.
Hello, you're on John Anderton. It's the one less traffic.
So what was happening in here? It was like the environment knew who he was. Everything around him was reacting to him. Are we that far from that? Let me scare the shit out of you. So this is a BBC report of a news reporter who tried to evade the Chinese surveillance system in Beijing or Shanghai, I can't remember. Whoops. And basically he tried to hide.
Well, let's see how it takes you to find me. Thank you very much. Let's go.我们可以追溯到说，出现每一张脸都可以对应说他的身份证，以及他所经过，比如在过去一周我们回溯他的行进路程，我们也做了像人和车的匹配。那同时在人上。
Network problems?
是做到一定密度的时候，其实我们会经常知道你跟谁经常在一起。Well, here we are then. I've just got out of the car, close to the city centre, and for the purposes of this exercise, the plan is for me walking in the direction of the bus station. My image has already been flagged to the authorities as a suspect, and in theory, it should only be a matter of time. So already on this bridge, I can see 1, 2, 3 CCTV cameras. Of course, there's no point hiding from them. Just keep on walking. Uh-oh. Right behind me, you can see just over my left shoulder there.
Anyway, it took him about 6 minutes to get caught. So it makes you wonder, did they push a limit? What are the side effects of this? The amount of criminal activity decreased significantly after this. People get other services. Like nowadays, you can actually check into your flight without even doing anything. You just appear on the airport and it will know that you're there to take your flight. It will give you instructions where to go without even you having to pull up a phone to do so. UK has a system similar to this. And I'm pretty sure other cities everywhere in the world will have something like this, where they can use cameras. So for example, in Oulu, they use cameras and radars to track traffic, for example, to know if you're biking versus driving, to give you priority when you're biking, for example, in the crossroads, and other things. So there's good and bad in technology, especially when used in such a large scale. Okay. So I mentioned before we will be programming on Android, pretty much. It's an open source platform, and most of the hardware and APIs are done in Java or Kotlin. Google nowadays has been migrating pretty much everything to Kotlin. That's why we are focusing on Kotlin. Most people have this understanding that Android is mobile phones only, but it's actually running on many other devices. And we are only focusing on the software development kit and not on the native development kit. So there's the NDK, so that's the native, and that's C++. So if you want to build your own drivers for your own hardware, we're not going to go there, okay? So we are going to focus on the application framework and interacting with existing applications, okay? So we'll be more doing interaction with the OS and also with the user. So these two. We will use Android Studio. It's also available for free. It runs on all different operating systems, Linux, Mac, Windows, you name it. And there's a lot of, it has support for templates for projects. So you can actually start a new app and it will automatically create all the files you need, and you can just press run and the app will run on your phone, for example. And it also has GitHub integration. And that's why we are using GitHub, so that you can track the progress that has been done, push your changes. We will teach you how to do that. If you don't have an Android phone, we have a few that we can lend for the duration of the course, okay? So if you're thinking about it, I don't have an Android phone, that's okay. We have a few that we can lend, okay? And you can download Android Studio from this link in here. So tomorrow's lab will be your first lab, okay? And this lab will be specific to get you started, for you to get your hands and make sure that you have Android Studio running on your laptop, okay? So please bring it. You can try installing Android Studio already beforehand. Android Studio is 1.6 gigabytes of storage. So it's quite big if you try to download it on the class itself. It will take like 10, 15 minutes to download in here. So please do it at home. So it takes some time at least to install it. And just bring a laptop to the lab, okay? You don't need your laptop on the lectures, but you do need it for the labs. And like I said, if you come to the labs, basically you're doing the homeworks anyway. Okay, so that's kind of the thing. So for the lending of the devices, you can either email Kennedy or Valerie. Yeah, we can also bring some already tomorrow, so then you can just take it. Okay. Yeah. So this is a gist of the stuff we will be talking on this course. This was introduction, so it's quite lightweight. I didn't want to, come down hard on you guys with a lot of stuff, but it's just to give you a feel for what the course is, how's it going to be. It's a relatively easy course in terms of, getting the credits. We don't have exams. You can skip the class if you want to, even though I don't want to be alone here, so please come. We will record all the lectures. So if anything is not clear, you can always go there and see it again. We will put them on a YouTube channel, which also transcribes what I'm saying to text. So if you didn't really understand, hopefully Google will do a good job understanding it. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's my accent. Yeah, I hope you guys are excited, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Yeah, sounds good. All right.
Thank you.